we're going to take a look at the French press. And for that, we're joined by Dipti Laurent this morning. Good morning to you, Dipti. Let's start off with these labour reforms that the French government is set to debate this week.
That's right. These labour reforms have been very controversial now, mainly because it threatens the very sort of fabric of French society, which is the way we hire and fire workers now. It's received some praise from the right, but it's really divided the Socialist Party. And the government is set to go into negotiations later this week. But will they come up good? That's what Le Figaro, the right-leaning paper, is asking this morning. And look at this front page picture. Clenched jaws, these grim faces from Manuel Valls and François Hollande in the forefront there.
It appears that it's make or break, though, as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. The coming days really are capital for the French government, and it's just over a year out from the French presidential elections, and that's what Le Figaro is saying in this rather harsh editorial this morning, saying Valls and Hollande, quote, need the soul necessary to resist opposition from its own party, who, as usual, are opposed to changes to the social model. And it's a system that Le Figaro really criticizes, this social model in France, that it says is responsible for 4 million unemployed people, abysmal debt, and, of course, the rise of the far-right party.
Well, the Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, he'll be in marathon talks ahead of these negotiations on Wednesday. And this all comes as a wave of protests planned for this week.
That's right. There's a massive student protest planned for later this week. Manuel Valls will be meeting with unions. He'll be meeting with Myriam El Khomri, who of course, is the French Labour Minister, and as well as other members of parliament. He's promised to make improvements to the text, but in its editorial, Les Echos, the French business paper, says it's really a lost case for the Prime Minister, saying, quote, the pressure is simply too strong, and it's impossible to change the, quote, paradigm of the left, like Valls was hoping to do, taking inspiration from other left-leaning leaders in Europe, like the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. But the paper really advises Valls now to revert to the more traditional politics of win-win, giving a little to get a little.
Let's move on to some other important talks set to take place this week. And of course, we have the EU Migrant Summit with Turkey held in Brussels today.
That's right. Le Figaro has actually gotten hold of the proposed deal that they'll be discussing at the summit. And according to this document, the EU says it's ready to do the maximum needed to help Greece, which of course has become a sort of terminus for thousands of migrants fleeing the Middle East. And one of those actions includes shutting down the Balkans route. It's a decision that Le Figaro says really shows that EU leaders are choosing to, quote, close in on themselves to strengthen their ranks. And in L'Opinion, a pro-European newspaper, you see this sort of selfish mentality personified here in this cartoon, where you see really it's each man for himself. That's what the headline says. And you see Angela Merkel meeting with the Turkish leader there, while other EU leaders like ostriches have their heads buried in the sand. And I think it really complements what we were saying before, that EU leaders are really closing rank on themselves, just to sort of thinking about themselves only right now.
And it's this attitude, Deep from Europe that's angered some in the French media.
That's right, especially L'Humanité, which is a leftist paper, a left-wing paper, and they're furious about what they see as this ordeal of migrants, le périple des réfugiés, facing this European deadlock, this European impasse. And the article is just as harsh, saying European leaders should be, quote, read with shame when the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, or for Human Rights rather, is obliged to remind them that building walls when there's an influx of desperate people is simply an act of cruelty.
That's biting words from the left-wing publication. But another left-leaning paper has dedicated a good part of its Monday edition to the Calais crisis.
That's right. That's Libération, Hala, and it's their Made in Calais edition this Monday. And the headline reads, Life After the Jungle, of course, referring to the sprawling camps set out in the north of France. 500 inhabitants, local shopkeepers and business owners will be meeting with François Hollande this morning to talk about the impact of the crisis on their local life. Libération has gone searching for migrants, for migrants after Calais, basically those migrants that were forced to move out of those camps after they were dismantled last week. And the paper really reminds readers of what's a very precarious situation that they're facing, a shortage of food, water and basic needs.
OK, let's finish up with International Women's Day Bingo. Interesting concept. What's this about?
So Tuesday, March 8th is, of course, International Women's Day. And for Slate, at least, that means a plethora of makeover workshops, TV shows about women, and rather corny jokes. So it's taking its own spin on the day. The article's author, Nadia Dam, calls on women to sort of do this bingo of all cheesy International Women's Day events. Like, for instance, a male colleague bringing you patisseries in the morning, watching a program dedicated to women hosted by men, or the inevitable joke of women and the washing up or some other domestic chore, or the rather predictable 8th of March specials that you might find in your email inbox, like buy one, get one free wax or haircut or nails. So the incentive for this bingo, there's not really a lot. The author basically says it's just a sobering realization that the whole day is one big marketing gimmick.
Okay, we'll certainly want to keep an eye on tomorrow, see if I'll get my bingo card at the ready. Thank you very much. Diptyque Laurent with the press review.